Stop making these mistakes with your Samsung phone right now. Let's go. I see people using Samsung products every day, and I see them making so many mistakes with how they use their phone. This isn't a video to throw shade at anyone, it's to help you identify the mistakes that you're making and help you stop making them. The first one is very plain and simple, a very easy one to stop doing. Stop closing all your apps that are open in your multi-window section. Just leave them open. Obviously, as you're using a phone throughout the day, you accumulate a lot of apps that you're using. And it all stores in the RAM in the background, so when you need it, it's ready to open it back up again. Lots of people, iPhone users in particular, they don't have a close all button. So they spend ages swiping away all the cards, when if they just had a close all button, they could close it all. I'm not an advocate of closing apps in the background, because what ends up happening is when you close these apps, yes, they go away from stored RAM, but whenever you need to open that app again, what it actually ends up doing is relaunching the entire app, using more processing power, consuming more battery. If you just leave it open there in the background, the RAM is doing its job. It's holding that place for it, and when you go back to open it again, rather than having to relaunch everything that the app needs to have open, it's jumping straight to the spot because it's already being held there. If you use a lot of the same apps over and over again, this could be a really good thing to not do. In fact, I forgot to film this part when I was recording, but there is a sort of option, especially with Samsung phones with a lot of RAM, to hold apps permanently. So if you don't want to close these apps specifically, you can lock them and they will stay there regardless of whether you hit close all or not. By the time I've sent this video live, there will be B-roll of this, I guarantee it. The second mistake I see a lot of people doing is they turn off adaptive brightness. And they do this, again, because they think it's probably using more battery when in actual fact is using less. The way adaptive brightness works is depending on the lighting environment that you're in, it will either pump the brightness up or scale the brightness down so it's not consuming too much power or you need it to be brighter when you're outdoors, for example. People turn this off and they end up having to manually adjust the brightness themselves. Adaptive brightness, it uses the light sensor underneath the screen and it uses the cameras on the back to sort of judge the lighting environment and then boost the brightness accordingly. What ends up happening is a lot of people will keep the brightness at a certain level that's too bright for the environment they're in. And what ends up happening then is it consumes more battery in those moments where it doesn't need that brightness. So then when you actually need the brightness outdoors, it doesn't have potentially enough battery life to sustain itself. So adaptive brightness will adjust itself based on the lighting environment and give you the best brightness that you need for that environment. If you decide to manually override that brightness whilst the adaptive brightness is toggled on, the phone will sort of learn your usage behavior and adjust it based on the lighting environment, based on your preference, and keep that brightness level the way you want it. But you need to have adaptive brightness turned on for that to work. So just leave it on. That's my advice. Number 3, we are all addicted to our phones. And when we're not using them, we just leave them on, sitting there, waiting to be used again. And that's exactly how they're designed. It's a mobile product. They don't use a lot of power when they are sort of in this switched off sleeping state. But like computers, like us, they need a bit of a break. Sometimes they just need a refresh. You know that old saying, turn it off, then turn it back on again? Phones are the same. And rather than you having to worry about manually doing it yourself, the phone actually has something built in to help. So rather than just leaving the phone on and then going, I wonder why it's slowing down. Well, turn it off and back on again, and you'll see that problem, whatever it was, potentially fixed. In the settings, in device care, under auto optimization, there's a couple of things you can do. You can have an auto restart option where it says restart when needed. And then depending on the problems that the phone might be having, it'll just flush a restart out and hopefully come good again. Or you can do it on a schedule. So once, twice, or however many days a week that you'd like it to restart, you pick the time, you pick the days, and then providing it meets certain conditions like the screen not being on and battery being above 30%, it'll run a restart cycle. I tried to show it how it works in my demonstration and realized that my phone was both on and under 30% battery. So despite making it meet the conditions from a time point of view and a day point of view, it failed on a couple other ones. But you get the point. You can restart it. I pick Monday at 3 a.m. And every Monday at 3 a.m. when my phone's on charge on the side of the bed, it sort of runs a restart cycle. Wake up good as new. Another mistake I see a lot of people make is forgetting their passwords and forgetting to keep their device secure. Today's sponsor, Keeper Security, has multiple solutions for just that. Keeper offers you multiple ways to secure your information. Everything from passwords all the way through to encrypted messaging. More than 4 million people are using Keeper globally, and they have more than 300,000 5-star ratings across their various app stores that they are available in. The reasons for that is that Keeper has a proprietary zero trust and zero knowledge security model that has full end-to-end encryption. This ensures that even in a worst case scenario, all of the content in the vault remains protected. No one, not even an employee of Keeper Security, can access your personal vault. Keeper allows you to create and store passwords in this personal vault that you can then access on any device. All you need to do is remember one single password, and that will unlock passwords for everything you need access to. Keeper also allows you to share your passwords and control the conditions that the other people are allowed to use it in. Keeper makes it easy to be secure on the devices that you work on, and they've made it even easier for you to be a part of it by offering you a special discount code. Code is on the screen now. I'll also pop the link and the code in the description. Thank you to Keeper Security for sponsoring this video. Number 4, I see this one all the time. People who don't clean their camera lenses. I actually forgot to put this one in the camera mistakes video that I made a couple weeks ago, and I saw someone put it in the comments, so I figured I'll add it in here. What ends up happening is when you're using your phone a lot, pulling it in and out of your pocket, putting it on tables, the camera lenses get smudged. It's just what happens. In fact, my wife's a good example of this. She puts it in a bag. Sometimes there's things in the bag and then she pulls it out like this, and then the camera lenses have fingerprints on them. Now, there is a software feature that does remind you to sort of clean your camera lens periodically with Samsung's cameras. It doesn't always come up. So just by a rule for myself, I will always run my t-shirt over the camera lenses just to make sure they stay clear. Because there's a big difference between a smudgy camera and a clear one. A smudgy one won't capture the details properly. It looks like it's maybe a little bit blown out. Whereas a clear one, well, it looks clear. That difference is obvious. And the last one is all to do with animations. A lot of people, and myself included was one of these for a while, go in to turn developer options on and then change the animation and the transition scales to 0.5. I thought this sped up the phone and made it feel faster and snappier. Since 120Hz has come along, I don't use it as much, but it's definitely something that's always in the back of my mind. What if I continued to use this? I remember turning it on one day a few years ago, and then I went to take a single take. And the single take animation got messed up from it. Instead of it actually running normally and the timers all working properly, it sped it all up and then confused the overall experience. The moment I switched it back to transition and animation scale at 1x, it put it back to normal. Now that Samsung have released Home Up and there's gesture controls and settings that you can tune in there, you don't need the animation scaling anymore in developer options. You can go into here and you can tune it to your heart's content with all the settings that Samsung have offered you. You just need to download GoodLock, go into Home Up, and you see all of the settings that you've got. And it does make a difference. The animations do make it feel snappier, and it has absolutely no impact on things like single take and the animations that work in there. Like I said at the start, this isn't a video to attack you or sort of say to you, use your phone better. It's basically just a guide. If you are someone who makes some of these mistakes that I see a lot, there's easy ways to fix it. And you'll get a better experience out of your phone for doing so as well. So if you're going to use any of these helpful hints, check them out. If you're going to use any of these helpful tips, let me know in the comments below and hit subscribe whilst you're down there. Feel free to join as a member so you get early access to these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You!